Hello, Sable Aradia back again with another update on the Okanagan Library Summer Reading Challenge. So I have now finished The Return of Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and you'll be able to read my review on Goodreads and probably also at worldswithoutend.com. I need to know whether or not the book's listed there. I'm not sure it is. It was okay. I mean, I really enjoyed the first Tarzan book. I thought it was just amazing getting inside the head of this individual that was, a feral child who was really smart, and seeing society through his eyes. It was very cool. I don't know. My partner said what he figured about this one was that it was sort of a potboiler, right? That the first one was a runaway success. So then publishers were probably like, hey, Burroughs, this, ape man of yours, he's doing really well. Get something else out fast. So he did. And it strains... Okay, all right, so it's Tarzan. You don't expect it to be realistic, but it strains credibility in a way that is typical tropes of pulp fiction. Now, of course, they probably weren't tropes when Burroughs did them. He was the first, but some of it you're kind of going, no. It's just no. I think the main goal was to get Tarzan and Jane together. Okay, well, spoiler, it doesn't look that way after the end of the first book, right? So I think that's really what it was about. And I suppose that the sort of ideological, philosophical thesis that Burroughs was running with was that it is woman that civilizes man. Okay. Tarzan was being very much Tarzan. There's lots of action. It read very quickly. It's kind of like candy. It's not really nourishment, but it's fun. So, also, I should probably talk about racism in old novels. Now, when I was reviewing Alas, Babylon, I saw a review on Goodreads where someone was saying, this book is horribly racist and I hate it. And I disagreed. It took place in Florida in 1958. They were describing Florida's society in 1958, which was racist. They were describing things like there were drinking fountains that were segregated and whatnot, and the respectable spinster wasp next door was wondering whether or not it was appropriate to invite black people to their barbecue, which the reviewer that I was reading took great offense to. And fair enough, it's really shitty that society was like that. I think it cheapens the civil rights movement and everyone who has come after that to try to pretend that society was always like it is now. It certainly was not. As a matter of fact, I thought this was particularly annoying in the case of that book because the backstory of the protagonist, Randy was his name, was that he had lost a local election because he was not racist, at least not for the standards of the time. Probably still was a little bit, certainly would be considered so by modern standards, but he said, I believe it was a quote from that book, I swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States, all of it. And this was in response to a question about race issues. So I don't think that's fair. If you're going to disagree with the book because there are racist elements in it, please don't read anything before 1980 as a publication date, and even then it's questionable because that is the way Western society was. On the other hand, Edgar Rice Burroughs is racist, and that's still pretty normal for the standard of his time. The difference comes in the way his characters think. His characters think racist thoughts. It's really jarring in the Tarzan books. Remember that Tarzan, Lord Greystoke, first meets a bunch of colonial whites when he meets white people. So there's little things in there that really grate on a modern person's nerves, especially if you, like me, are very concerned about issues of racism and sexism, and you support a more leftist political bent. Stuff like he was thinking about the tribe he was ruling as his blacks, right? And white people and black people apparently smell different. And openly saying that whites were a higher species, less savage than, say, the Arabs, who were wild people, who were less savage than the blacks, who were savages, right? So, yuck. For that reason, even though Tarzan is generally considered to be a classic that is suitable for children, I don't think children should read these books. I don't think that a child has the proper context to differentiate, and it might confuse them a great deal to think of, Tarzan thinking of these racist thoughts, right? So I think that if we're going to expose our kids to Tarzan, it's got to be a reimagined Tarzan. It's got to be through movies made in more modern times. It's got to be through rewritten child story books. And that's cool, because Tarzan's a cool character. Anyway, that's my thoughts about racism in early books and differentiating between when the book actually is racist and when it just deals with racist subject matter that is typical of the time period in which it was written. So now then, back to my bingo card. Let's see. There you go. Now you can see it. This is suited to set in Africa and part of a series. And there you go. So far, so good. Now, what's next on the agenda? Well, I'm going to read this one. This novel is called We. It is by, let's see if I can pronounce his name, Yevgeny Zamyatin. It was originally written in Russian. It has been translated by Mira Ginsburg. It is a classic dystopian novel that may have been one of the inspirations for George Orwell's 1984. So this is pretty cool. I'll be doing it for my Apocalypse Now challenge, and it's also suited to, let's see here, where is it? In translation, and a book with a one-word title. So what would you like to see me do next? I'm kind of torn about the nonfiction book that I'd like to read, and I like to have a nonfiction book going at the same time that I have a fiction book going, just because I like that balance in my reading. So I read things that are generally historical, scientific, or metaphysical pagan. So I figured rather than leave it up to those general subjects, I'd let you guys vote on the particular books. I have narrowed them down to the following 3. This one is The Secret History of the Mongol Queens, How the Daughters of Genghis Khan Rescued His Empire by Jack Weatherford. And I'm considering reading this one because it was something that was recommended by the fantasy author Kate Elliott for a good way to see how women can actually be really involved in history if you are writing a medieval period novel. So, cool stuff. My second option is something I've been meaning to read for a while, A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, the classic. So that's my scientific option. And my metaphysical pagan option will be Full Contact Magick by Kerr Cuhulain, sorry, I'm Gaelic. But it's subtitled A Book of Shadows for the Wiccan Warrior. If I do end up reading this one, it would also count for by a Canadian author, because Kerr Cuhulain is from Vancouver. I actually know him personally. I've never actually gotten around to reading his book, so I'm kind of excited about it. Let me know which one you want me to do in the comments, and at that, I think I'll leave it for today. See you next time. Bye.